Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Dallas Daily Show. So glad to have you here today. Thank you for coming along with me. And thank you to we're here at this awesome studio, Neighborhood Loan Studio in St. Louis, Missouri. Be sure and check them out in the show notes below. They are your neighborhood lender. But this is a new one inside of the Dallas Daily Show. So usually we're coming at you 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, and it's about 7 to 8 minutes per day, right? It's not very long, short little quick hits for you, daily little mind motivation and inspiration, stories of insight, inspiration, and actionable takeaways. What we're going to be doing with the show is we're going to continue on that format Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. But on Wednesdays, on the midweek, we're going to be doing a thing called the Midweek MindSHIFT. That's what these episodes are going to be. They're going to be a little bit longer than the normal 8-minute thing. It's going to be more of a traditional length of pod. But what I want to do for you is I want to make sure that you have a little bit longer, because sometimes in the middle of the week, we hit Monday running. Tuesday, we find our groove. Wednesday, we're like, we still are only halfway through the week. And then Thursday and Friday, we kind of trudge through. So this is all about a midweek little mind shift for you to kind of keep you in one of those upper gears that you experienced on, either Monday or Tuesday. You can kind of experience that same thing. So this is a mind shift. Why am I calling it a mind shift, midweek mind shift, rather than a midweek mindset? Well, that's very easy. I'm going to lift that chair up a little bit because it was a little bit low. So the reason we call it this is because there are a lot of mindset coaches out there. There are a lot of people who will talk to you about changing your mindset, and you just need to have a different mindset. And it's almost, I'll be honest, it's kind of been used ad nauseum. So part of it is because I don't want to use the word mindset. That happened because I didn't want to do that. The other side of it is I actually believe that a mindset is how you have set your mind toward limiting the potentiality of your growth. And I think we have an opportunity here to do something more with it. I think we actually have an opportunity to shift the way we think. So use that word mindset, and we're going to do a little play on words here with you, right? I'm going to shift them around, and we're going to say mindset. Or do you have a set mind? Do you have a set way of thinking, this is how growth happens? This is how I will change things. And you've read the books, right? We talked about quantity information versus quality revelation a couple of weeks ago. You've read the things, you've done the stuff, and you've read all the mindset books, and you've been told you have to change your mindset. But the word itself, set your mind. Now, you can set your mind in the verb form on growth. You can set your mind toward expansion. You can set your mind, but what usually happens is we have what people like Bob Proctor call a paradigm. All right. And the paradigm is how your mind has been set. It is your habitual way of thinking. Now, I've got lots of books and resources. We have we have a book resource library at dallasdailyshow.com that you can go these are my top readers. One of the books you will hear me regularly talk about here, especially on the Mind Shift call, is there was a man named Bob Proctor, passed away a couple of years ago. God rest his soul. He is the co-founder with Sandy Gallagher of the Proctor Gallagher Institute, but he really came out of the work and thinking of people like Earl Nightingale. I know what I just did there. I overwhelmed you with 3 big names. I didn't even mention Maxwell Maltz to you. I didn't mention Napoleon Hill. I haven't mentioned all of those people. Again, resources on the website and in the show notes below. But Bob Proctor, he really grabbed hold of this thing. And the book that I started reading a few years ago with him was called Change Your Paradigm, Change Your Life. And this is the book I mentioned the other day. There's a book that I've read 15 times. I just started my 16th version of it. But I've read it that many times, and I read small little chunks every day because one sentence will stand out to me. And I highlight that sentence, and I think about that sentence, and I chew on that sentence. But the idea of paradigms is it's the 1,000 little mini scripts that we have been taught over time. And it creates a mindset for us. And all of our beliefs and all of our behaviors and all of our present results come out of our mindset. So think of it visually. For those of you watching the video version of this podcast on YouTube or some of the clips on Instagram, think of it like this. Your brain, when you were younger, had this big old, it was just like an empty system, and people just started filling it up. They started filling it up, and they started using words. They started telling you who you are. They started telling you things that you can expect from your life. Life is all about money doesn't grow on, right? They started teaching you things about money. Life is all, wine and roses, kid. Or what's another one? Well, good things are happening, but I'm just waiting for the other shoe to drop, right? All those phrases we were taught. Or maybe you had a teacher who said you'd never amount to anything. Maybe you had friends who gave you a nickname that all of a sudden, like maybe we had a friend that growing up, everyone called him Big Tree. He was the biggest guy, tallest guy, and everyone just called him Big Tree. Is it any wonder that he blew up 300 plus pounds because all he ever believed was he was the big tree? Well, he had to start changing. So all of the messages, all of the scripts, all of the learnings, those all got dumped into your brain when you were a kid. And on top of that, here's what also started happening. You grew up in a socioeconomic level, religious messages, education messages that you were sent, right? Political messages you were sent. I forget what the stat is, but like if you're blue or red, Democrat or Republican, this is not a conversation about politics, but if you're one of those, if you grew up in that, you're like 4 times more likely, I think the number was, 4 times more likely to continue to vote that way. Why? Well, because you were given a worldview. You were given a paradigm. You were given a way of thinking, a framework, or could I say it like this? Your mind was set for you. Now, we like to believe that we're free thinkers. You've probably heard of this quote. Jim Rohn says, you become like the 5 people you hang out with the most, right? There's another name. Boom, I'm just throwing names. I'm throwing names at you guys today, left and right. So Jim Rohn says you become like the 5 people you hang out with the most. I guarantee you, if you're reading books regularly, they're starting to change your mind. You start watching certain news channels, they start to change your mind. And you can tell yourself all you like, I'm a free thinker. No, you're not. You're not. You are the sum total result of all of the learning and scripts and messaging that's going into your brain on a day in, day out basis, because it's constantly programming you. Television is programming you. Streamers offer you programming. That's a weird word to think about, right? But you are the sum total of all the messages you receive on any given day. And so free thinking, breaking free from that is actually really difficult to do, because all of a sudden it's just part of you and you think, oh no, these are my thoughts. Well, maybe there's someone else's thoughts for you. You have a mindset. And what usually happens is the mindset from the past programming, or what Proctor would call the paradigm, what I call the scripts of behavior, all of that, the coding that was given to you, comes in and you begin to act it out. You begin to play out the role, begin to play out the part, begin to play out the beliefs. This is also, by the way, why belief behavior trigger cycles are very difficult to break if we continue to just simply fly on the autopilot of our lives and go on the constant messaging that barrages our subconscious and our brain. What we have to do is we have to begin to have a shift in our thinking. So if, for instance, you have been dealing with weight loss for 5, 10, 15 years, and you've begun to tell yourself, you remember last week we talked about in the episode, the 3-headed dog, that hopelessness that begins to occur in us. So if you've been going in the same cycle and you're finding yourself on a trajectory toward a future you that you want to avoid, you have to get out of the mindset that you're in, and you have to begin to shift. I'm going to tell you how to do that here in just a moment. But first, I want to pause and talk about our sponsors. Hey, everybody, I just want to give a quick shout out to our studio sponsor here at Neighborhood Loans Studio in St. Louis, Missouri. If you're in the market for a new home, look no further. Their 5-star team is excellent. They can help you get what you need. And I can personally connect you with their team, or you can check out their website, neighborhoodloans.com. Again, that's neighborhoodloans.com, or feel free to call them 314-658-9400. Again, that's 314-658-9400. And even though the studio's located here in St. Louis, Missouri, they can service you nationwide. So trust me when I say you are in the best hands with Neighborhood Loans. So far we've talked about this idea of this mindset and how your mind gets set. And a lot of people are like, well, you need to change your mindset. That's why we actually use that phrase, change your mindset, because we know you're set in your ways. So instead, what we have to do is I think we need to have a mind shift. We need to begin to shift where we're getting the programming. Now, the thing I'm about to say, full disclaimer, it's going to sound a little woo-woo. It's going to sound a little crazy, and it's going to sound a little bit like, what the heck is this guy talking about? I'm introducing an idea here to you, and it's the idea of future you. All right, there is a person out there in front of you, and if you've been listening to the pod since the beginning, you've heard me reference this in the past. There's a future version of you, and there's actually two versions of future you out there. There is a future you that is the future you that you want to avoid. This is the one who's unhealthy. This is the one who's sick. This is the one who's in all kinds of the debts, in all kinds of broken relationships. When you think of like, boy, I really don't want my world to end up here, that's what that is. But the future you out exists because at some point, my friend, you are going to arrive at your future. I don't know if you knew that or not, but there was a point you arrived at today. And at some point today was your future. Like yesterday, today was your future. So you're going to arrive at your future a year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now. And you have the choice based on the present beliefs, present behaviors, and the present trajectory of which of these futures you're going to end up towards. So over on this side, there's the future you that you want to avoid. And then over on this side, there's a future you of the person you want to become. This is the person who, that's the idealized, realized self. When you think of, like, when you go back in your mind and you're like, man, when I grow up, I want to be a blank, right? There's this idealized future you that's out there. And maybe it's, I want to be a great father or parent. I want to be a great spouse. I want to be a great partner. I want to own my own company, right? It could be any number of things that you say to yourself, I want to be blank. But it's this idealized, realized version of yourself. Those are the two potential futures out there. Future you want to avoid, and future you want to embrace. Future you want to become. The ideal future you. And I'm here today to tell you how to say hello to that future you. And inside of this Mind Shift series, again, what we're going to be doing, everybody, is we're going to be Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday of the Dallas Daily Show. And those are going to be the 7-minute, 8-minute episodes. But here in the midweek on Wednesday episodes, we're going to be doing the Mind Shift episode. And that's going to be a little bit longer because it's going to be a little more practical. And we're going to lay into this philosophy of saying hello to future you. This is the book that I have coming out this next year as well. Say hello to future you. This is something I've been digging into daily for 3 years, but I actually started writing this book in 2012. And all I had at the time was the seed of the thought. And I couldn't finish the book, and I wondered why. I was like, it's not quite right. I started writing this book, and it stopped. And I went, it's not quite right. I'm finishing this book right now, and this is going to be the thing. So say hello to future you, because I firmly believe that you can become this ideal future self. And you can become it in so many ways, but it's going to take the mind shift. Now, let's get back into what I mean by that. So we've been talking about this idea of mindset, right? And all the past programming, all of that stuff's been coming at you. But that has determined your current present reality. And it's determining a trajectory toward a future you that you want to avoid. So if you're not happy with your present results, and if you can honestly look and go, yeah, I'm not excited about where certain things are headed. Now, maybe some things are going really well, right? Maybe some things are going spectacularly well. Maybe you're winning in business, but maybe you're losing in relationships. Maybe you're succeeding in your spiritual walk, but your body's falling apart. It's kind of 4 elements of who you are. There's a spiritual side of who you are, a physical side of who you are. There's the relational part of you, and then there's the professional. Now, psychological and emotional and financial and all these other dimensions of wellness kind of fall in that. But really, there's 4 aspects of who you are: spiritual, physical, relational, and professional. And if you can dial those 4 in, if you can dial those 4 things in, you can really get yourself moving toward a future you want to embrace. But maybe you're winning in one and lagging in another, or maybe you're really, really crushing it in an area, but another area is totally labored and you're not winning at all. What we have to do is we have to begin to look at what are our scripts in those four areas. How have we been fed to believe a certain mindset in those four areas? What do we believe spiritually? And it can be positive or negative, right? And I'm not talking a particular religion right now. For anyone who knows me, you know I'm a Christian, you know I'm a Jesus guy. I'll gladly talk to you about that. We have communities for that as well. But I'm talking about, when I say spiritual, I'm talking about that soul level, that balance of your inner and outer world. And maybe that's struggling for you, or maybe you're so anti-religion you don't even pay attention, but your soul's bleeding on the inside and you're like, I just am always feeling empty and broken and dark. That's the spiritual side of who you are. That's what I'm talking about there. The physical, that's nutrition, that's health, that's active lifestyle, that's all of those things, right? And with one of our donors, we talk about that, or one of our donors, one of our sponsors, we talk about that quite a bit. And they're one of the sponsors of the show here. And so there's that side of who you are as well. Are you on a trajectory right now physically where you want to be in the next 5 to 10 years? Or are you starting to get the reports from the doctors that aren't what you want? Then maybe you're headed in a direction and maybe you need a shift there. But it's not because of your current, it was programmed in you. The things you were taught to believe about food, the things you were taught to believe about fitness, all of that was programmed in you. But this is why the shift is important. Maybe it's about the way you believe about money and finances, your professional world. Maybe it's the beliefs you have about your coworkers or your boss or your supervisor, or all the things, right? Or relationally, maybe it's the beliefs you were taught about the role of a man and the role of a woman and the role of children and the whatever it might be. We were taught things, and now we act out and we believe things and perform a certain way based on what we were taught. That is our mindset. But the mind shift does not come from past programming. Here's where the rubber hits the road, okay? The mind shift does not come from past programming. Instead, you have to figure out who this future version of yourself is. And you have to begin to define through imagination and emotion, you have to begin to define what they look like, this future version of you, how they behave, how they perform, how rewarding their relationships are, what their life is like physically, spiritually, relationally, professionally. You begin to build out this, some would even call it a vision board, but it's so much more than that. You begin to build out this future version of yourself to where they start to live the life. And you're like, oh my gosh, yes, that's how I want to respond. That's how I want to do the things. That's who I ultimately want to become. And then you begin to ask yourself in the present, what would they do in this situation? What would they do in this moment? What would they do in this place? How would they respond to this physical need or this desire for food or this issue with their spouse or this issue with their children? What does future me do? You know, years ago in the 90s and early 2000s, everybody walked around with, not everybody, but a lot of people walked around with the what would Jesus do, WWJD bracelets, WWJD shirts. I'm asking the question, what would future you do? Not taking anything away from Jesus. Don't read into that what I just said. What I'm saying is there's a future version of you, and if you can begin to think like them, feel like them, believe like them, and ultimately behave like them, the shift is going to be you're no longer getting your programming from the past. You're now getting a program from a future version of yourself, and I have gotten to know my future version of me. And I again, guys, I said this might sound woo-woo at some point. There are times when a situation arises and I will literally say out of my mouth, hey, future Dallas, what would you do in this moment? And all I'm doing is taking a moment, not to react, but instead to respond. Not to come out of my old framework or my old mindset, but instead to adopt a new belief, a new behavior. It's going to get you out of those old cycles if all of a sudden you're building a belief behavior cycle from the future version of yourself to your present reality. And what's amazing is this one, you've heard me say this before in the podcast, everybody, this trigger belief behavior cycle eventually goes into a downward spiral. However, this one, if I'm getting the programming and the thoughts from the future me, all of a sudden, I no longer have a downward spiral. Instead, I've got an upward trajectory toward a future me I ultimately want to become. Now, that's a lot. I just fire hosed you with a ton of information, and we are going to continue to unpack this. Also, we're going to have resources for you at the website, dallasdailyshow.com. But here's the ultimate challenge. I believe there's a future version of you that is successful and healthy and wealthy and wise, and it is the idealized, realized version of who you ultimately want to become. And I want to teach you how to not only create that vision, but fall in love with that person so that ultimately you can begin to get on the trajectory of who that is. And it's no longer the old cycles, the old beliefs, the old behaviors. Instead, it's a new adoption of a new way of thinking. Say hello to future you, my friend. Say hello to future you. All right, that's it. That's all I got for you today. If you've downloaded the Positive Play Call, what I want you to write on your Positive Play Call card, I don't have one of those right in front of me right now, but what I want you to write on that is say hello to future me. That's it. Say hello to future me. Write that on the Positive Play cards. You can download those at the website. Again, thank you to our sponsors. Thank you to the Shed Fat Fast Arena and Joel Staley Fitness for being our sponsor on the Midweek MindSHIFT episodes, and to the community there that I'm talking to as well. And thank you to Neighborhood Loans. My friends, go out there. Have a championship day.
Thanks for listening to my dad's podcast. For more tools, go to dallasdailyshow.com. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Thank you.